Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made.
Attention,
I am
citizens.
somewhere in the
It's
wilds of
time
Alberta on a
for
gravel
Super
road.
Pulp Science.
The fence lines are littered with the remains of plastic bags fluttering like ghosts in the wind. There are no longer any stop signs, because why would anyone come out here and need to stop? I'm here with my long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry, who chose this route for us, who is the reason why we have gone from traveling at highway speeds to somewhere near 60 kilometers an hour so as not to fishtail off into a deep ravine. Justin, take it away.
The route I picked from Calgary to Saskatoon is apparently like a no man's land with zero towns and no civilization, just fields as far as you can see. We actually had to, about an hour and a half into the journey, we had to backtrack 25 minutes the other way because we realized that there was no gas stations for the next 3 hours, and we would not be able to make it to the next gas station if we didn't turn around and go back to another town. So it's been a rocky start. But I think while it's still fresh in our minds, I think we should do a bit of a post-mortem on the Calgary Comic-Con, which we just came from, and we're on our way to the Saskatoon convention, and we're doing these shows back to back. They're a week apart, and both Gregory and I are from Winnipeg, so we drive to Calgary because it's a big convention for us. And when we drive, we get to bring as many books and as many prints and as much display material as we can fit in a car. And then rather than drive 13 hours home and then drive to Saskatoon, it's much shorter to drive to stay in Calgary for a couple of days, then drive to Saskatoon and then drive home. It splits up the journey home. We got to stay with some friends in between. But it's been 3 long years since the real Calgary Comic-Con happened. And I think we should talk about what went great and what went wrong and everything in between. So take it away, Gregory.
Before we do that, I just want to further set the scene. We left the comfort of the long barbed wire fences behind us, and now there's just the open road and clearly a spring storm on the horizon reaching up over the hills. So desolate is this place that even those 3 oil pumps yonder are still having given up in this lifeless terrain.
They also got bored.
There isn't even oil left to pump from the dead hills that we are currently roaming. So if this is the last transmission of Super Pulp Science, well, I hope a future listener remembers us. But as far as Calgary went, it's been a couple of years since we did a show, and man, does it ever feel strange to be on the lee side of that. There is a fence up ahead that seems to be blocking our way.
You're gonna be turning right.
Oh, okay. Turns out there is a way past. Wait, will this conveyance trail be paved? Nope.
Still gravel road.
Turn right onto Highway 570.
Oh, listen to that warble. That's good. A little washboard.
You had a lot of new stuff at Calgary.
I had so much new stuff at Calgary. That was a experience I have never had before. The road is so washboarded that my throat is warbling. I have never. You better.
The warble of the washboard and the laughter and trying to hold the phone at the same time. Gregory is weaving, but it's a good thing we're only going 60 kilometers an hour because this road is too rough to go any faster.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Tell them about all your new stuff and how that worked, and I'll formulate my thoughts.
So I was actually I did the Calgary Comic-Con in September. They had like a limited show, so it was much like a reduced attendance and almost no celebrity guests and a much smaller artist alley and vendors hall and everything like that. And I was actually shocked at the amount of people who had found me at that, and it was almost frustrating sometimes because everybody who asked what I had new was asking what I had new from September. And whereas Gregory, everything he had like 2.5 years worth of new stuff. So it was like too much to even list. And I only had a couple new things. But of the couple new things that I had, they all did really well. This was my first real Comic-Con with enamel pins. I have 7 enamel pin designs now. And
We're no longer alone on this road.
we're passing a vehicle and it's kind of
Yonder, a dark truck, glowing eyes, comes towards us. Dust billowing beyond. Not even the cursory wave.
You didn't even do the wave, so if you grew up in the country, there is this thing.
The wave. I did this wave. It was a left-handed wave. Is it only right-hand waves?
No, you just bring your hand up.
I grew up in the country. We usually did the...
No, but it has to stay. Your hand has to stay on the steering wheel. You don't bring your hand all the way up.
Yeah, fishtail.
You just lift your fingers from the steering wheel in acknowledgement. It's not a full wave. Then you just look like a crazy
A
person.
slow, like I'm signaling for help because we're in the middle of nowhere, and there are no gas stations for hundreds of kilometers.
Yeah. One thing I think we should talk about.
Look, that's where they film InfoWars.
Jeez.
It's right there.
Well, it looks to me like these hills are full of iron, and if that's the case, you're not going to get a radio signal past them. Could you hold this, please?
What is your relationship to people's relationship to your work, and how has it changed as a result of this span of time? Now, like you said, you were there in September, so it's not so long since last I saw you. But I'll give you my for instance. For instance, I had people who visited the table. They've bought my work in bookstores recently because they couldn't find me at shows, which was an interesting experience where people, when I am used to, oh wow, what a view.
This is really scenic.
Yeah, now we are looking down into a scenic valley. Cows everywhere. Life has returned to this desolate land. Now I can see the telltale signs of green, like hope on the horizon. If this will be the last resting place of our journey, at least a tree will grow where our bones come to rest. Look at these. They're more like yaks than cows. Do you know your cows? Do you know your way around cows?
I do not know. I know Chevrolet are white cows.
There are black cows. There are red, furry ones. There's the ones that had the tufty hairs. There were 3 different kinds of steers, I think, there.
Alberta beef.
Steer is the right word, I believe. But steering is what I'm also trying to do as we go down this hill.
Steer is a bull that doesn't have the bull part.
No bull part?
No bull part. It's a male cow.
But no bull part.
No bull part.
Shit. No bull?
No bull.
Are we going the right way?
Yeah.
This is where horror movies happen.
It really
Oh my
is.
God, Dan, if you found this message, send help to our families.
Go to the hilly part of Alberta with the cows.
Oh my God. There's a iron cross rusted behind us. It's 10 feet tall.
I'm gonna take a video of this because this is just wild.
What is happening? Where are we? How is this the route? There is no way that this can possibly be the route. I thought we were going to have a businessy podcast, and now we're in the wilds of Alberta. Actually, I kind of like it, if I'm being honest. The problem is that if there were woods anywhere here, I know I could survive a little bit. But instead, there's just these desolate hills and barbed wire. And these sunken trench lines that I don't even know what causes that. Because no water seems to be
Glaciers?
flowing there.
Glacier path from.
If you're a geologist listening to our podcast, please like, comment, and subscribe, and leave a message for us.
We have rock scientists or pulp scientists.
Pulp paper scientists do sometimes listen to the podcast. I forget what I was saying. Oh, for the first time ever, first time in recent memory, somebody who had bought my things at a bookstore, a number of people who had said, you didn't come to the show, so we ordered your stuff through bookstores or through comic stores or through other things. But we only have this one or this one, right? Automatic Age or Apocrypha or this place, or the ones that you can get regularly through book channels. Whereas I have so many titles that I do exclusively, really because a living wage requires a person to control the means of production, and so a lot of convention exclusives help to make that work. They were a little bit shocked to discover that I hadn't given up on everything and instead had doubled down on making things. And I had to kind of convince people who I could tell. I had a couple of experiences that are kind of jumbled together here, but I'll try to straighten it out. So,
He hated it.
customers that connected to the work and then sought out the new work and sought out the remote. Whoa, what is that? Should we stop and go climb down there?
Kind of want to.
Would we ever be seen again?
Probably not. And cows can be I think more people are killed by cows than I don't know what else. Cows can be dangerous.
I don't want to alarm you or anyone else, Justin, but there is a truck following us. It's a white truck.
Yeah, he goes a lot faster than you do.
It's missing a headlight. He's definitely not pleased to be on the same road as us. He's going way faster. And
Shout out his license plate before he gets us. So
he does not have a front license plate. This is how he wins. Yeah, that's for sure.
What, did a meteor hit?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. We've come to the site of The Color Out of Space. Those familiar with H.P. Lovecraft's The Color Out of Space, that's the town we have arrived in. What is happening
What is going on?
right now? I have never seen anything like this. It looks like a hive of ants have hollowed out a hillside and dwell here. I am at a slight loss for words, something that nearly never happens. It's like the crevice dips down into the bedrock underneath there, exposing gray beneath. How do real reporters do this, where they just stay focused and are able to say what they are seeing all the time?
Practice, I imagine.
Practice, I guess. This Weavy Road, I'm going to pass this over to you because we're sliding around a little bit.
Yeah, we're on loose gravel right now. We are far away from any highway.
He was one of those guys that
Holy crap.
Fucking, we're going into a ravine.
This is the most interesting drive
What is
we've
happening?
ever had,
We're
though.
going to the bottom of a quarry now.
Is this Drumheller? Are we near like where all the dinosaur bones are? Is
There's
that why
no
it looks
way-
so interesting?
There's no way that you have got us on the right road.
We're just used to like Manitoba and Saskatchewan like typography, which is pretty flat and boring, and we are going through like some, Grand Canyon-esque awesomeness right now. So we're both a little
This is fun.
stunned.
I think that crack I made about InfoWars means that somebody has hacked our GPS and sent us to this.
It does not feel like we are headed towards civilization. It feels like we are headed towards a dig site.
We spent 10 hours playing Resident Evil this morning, so maybe that's why my mind. But isn't that how this feels? Where are we? What is going on? Everything's yellow, covered in like caked dust. There is a.
It's like a mining. It looks like like
the
scenes
remains
from
of a
the Old
strip
West.
mine. Yeah.
Like really tall red hills
The
and
truck is barreling down on us.
and a local is behind us, and locals, feel comfortable on these roads. Gregory is far from local and comfortable on these roads.
Right. But there's at least some scrub brush that if I have to eke out a living for a week, I can do that there. Alright.
And now we are going across a
Let this guy go past me.
extremely narrow, very old yellow metal bridge.
Look at the tree where they hang people.
There is a single tree off in the distance.
When Tom Waits sings songs like "There's a Murder in the Red Barn," he's talking about towns like this. What is this place? This is a haunted river. We're crossing a haunted river. Look at those trees. If there ever were trees on Earth.
Oh, this is a wooden bridge.
We're on a wooden bridge crossing a huge river. And if there were ever trees that were warning you to turn back, they are lining this river right now. Oh my God.
I'm also starting to second guess whether or not I took us on the right path.
There's no way
We're
out.
supposed to turn right at this stop
Oh
sign.
my God.
At the stop sign, turn right onto Highway 570.
I think the only way out is a helicopter.
Will be French fries, human French fries. No, we are not going to be French fries.
Okay, dear listener, if you can look up, we're at the Dinosaur Provincial Park.
What? This is a real place?
Right by the Dorothy rest area. We are at Dorothy, Alberta. So if you want to visually see what we just saw, Google the Dorothy Dinosaur Park. What did I just call it?
I don't know what it is, but they can rewind. What is that shack all dilapidated? There are some scary things that happen here. I'm sure in the full summer this place is delightful,
Wish I had a gas station.
but what is happening? Can we climb to the top of that? We should stop for some pictures.
But there is an old elevator. For those of you who did not grow up in the prairies, elevators are these like 10-story tall wooden structures that hold grain, and
That was made in 1901.
yeah, they're like 100 years old easily, and they put the grain and pump it to the top of the elevator, and then it's just gravity fed down
If you put
into
something in front of him, he just dumped.
the vehicles or carriages.
I will say from this side, it takes on kind of a singular beauty. Look at the strips of color of the open bedrock.
Yeah, you can really
Red
see like
to
the
yellow to
layers
gray.
of dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nature and all its majesty. Look, that cow is stuck. That cow is never coming out.
He's fine. You're not gonna save a cow, Gregory.
We can save him.
We have the
That
technology.
steer.
Oh, did you
Enough
notice?
has been taken from him, Justin.
Did you notice we're back on the highway? We were so stunned
we
by
found
the
a
scenery.
paved road.
We're on a paved road again. It's been the first time in 25 minutes. Oh, and there's deer. Look out for the deer.
Oh, look at them all.
Oh, they're gruff looking.
Yeah. Well, they survived down in that. So, definitely, when night falls, nothing lives down there. Nothing comes out alive from whatever the town of Dorothy. Oh, Dorothy. I get it. Because we're not in this world anymore.
Yeah. Talk about Moon Patrol.
Holy shit. Wow. Okay. So, yeah. Moon Patrol was that book I did 9 months of drawing, just non-stop drawing for. Yeah, we're on the real highway again. Non-stop drawing for. I hope we recorded this properly. Yes. Okay, good. Non-stop drawing for 9 months, just every night when everyone would go to sleep right in the height of the event, and no one was sure if the world would open or what would happen, and all my publishers and people were telling me, no, everything's closed, all the books are being sent back, there's no hope, everything's dismal. I said, well, fuck it, I'm just going to learn a new skill and learn how to draw differently and draw an entire story, an asset at a time, and just draw every night until the fear goes away. And so that's what I did. And that book is Moon Patrol, and it's 400 pages, silent story told one image at a time for 400 pages. And it was on the table. I did a test print. I did 2 boxes. I printed up 2 boxes of this big book. I mean, it's a small book, but it's thick. And just to see what the crowd reaction would be, because I have some interesting maneuvers I am trying to make with this book. But I had to first see, would anyone like it? And because there was a giant storm, and because there was shipping delays, and because there were paper delays, instead of having it for the beginning of the show, I only got it. I was not going to get it until Monday, and we were going to have it on Saskatoon. But then, a miracle, the shipper decided to ship it from a different location, produce it in a different location on the other side of the storm, and send it, and it made it on Saturday. And just on Saturday alone, I sold 1.5 boxes of this book that no one had ever heard of, just on the strength of its cover, and like picking it up quietly and flipping through it. It was a busy show, so I didn't really have a time to do the carnival barker routine of like telling everyone what each book was, because there were so many new things. So it was sort of up to people to pick them up and browse through them, and every time someone picked up Moon Patrol, it was basically done. So if you're listening to this and you're a Moon Patrol owner,
you should know that that's one of a very select print run of books. I decided not to hype that up. No, I didn't want to hype it up because what if I failed, Justin? What if I failed?
Well, now the second one, you're going to have to say second printing for your...
Yes, but I'm going to put in some new content, so it'll be exclusive. But I mean, that's sort of the whole point, is that if you find me at a show and you bought something that is a convention exclusive, there aren't that many of them, right? There's maybe a couple hundred or maybe 1,000 or two, and that's it. And then we do a different thing, or we do it a different way, or different colors, different paper stock. Like, it is legitimately rare, which I think is partially why people keep showing up.
Keeps it special.
Yeah, it does keep it special. Now that, normally when you see a gray, rickety old, like, they do tend to seem scary, but for some reason that one doesn't seem scary. It has all the hallmarks of a haunted old house, but for some reason, good things happen there. A family rose and fell.
You think the basement?
The basement, yeah.
So that's what I have to say about Moon Patrol. I really can't wait till many more people can see it, and there may be a more mass market edition of it, but for now I'm just testing the waters and seeing who reacts and in what way.
Baby's fat, you fat, fat and juicy.
Gregory and I changed up how we were moving books a little bit at this show. Just kind of like putting the business hats on and looking at the margins we can make on our prints versus the margins we can make on our books. It's at a Comic-Con, it's harder to move books. People are less likely to pick up your book if they've never heard of you or never seen you. But they... Oh, deer. Are those deer? Those look like... They've got fluffy butts.
Like Ibex.
Yeah.
But we're not in Africa. What is happening? We passed through... We're not in Canada anymore. We passed through Dorothy.
I should really check where we are.
And we're somewhere else.
But yeah, there was just a wildlife scare on the side of the road there. So, sorry, dear listener. But just, it's... Yeah, selling books is tough because... people have to really, it's hard to get like a read if they're going to like it off. Yeah, Greg is going to.
Here's my thoughts on this exact thing. There are too many maybes when it comes to a book, and there's a lot of yeses when it comes to a piece of art like a print. With a book, maybe I'll like it, maybe I'll even read it, maybe I'll give it to somebody, maybe I've heard of this guy. There's a lot of maybes. With a print, you see the artwork and you either love it or hate it immediately. So if you like it and you want it, there's all these, removals of your own inhibitions.
Yeah.
Right? It's already built in.
It's exactly face value. You know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah, there's no trick. There's no hidden, what's the word? Like, there's no hidden...
Also, there's no work you need to put into it. You don't need to put away an evening to really enjoy
Labor's the word. No hidden labor.
No hidden labor. So what Greg and I both did was a lot of our titles that are usually, $15, $25. Once you bought a print, we had the special going on that you could get that book for $10 on top of it, which seems like an amazing deal because especially some of these books cost $8, $9 to make per unit. So, at $10, we're not making any profit on that, but because our margins on prints are so great, we're still making money. And then the real goal, the actual goal of making these books is just to get them out there.
Yeah.
And, if we make that easier to get those books into people's hands, I think in another year or two, they're going to be hungry for the next book, right? We're trying to get on people's radar for books. And it's tough to do that with just books, but combining, if you're a print artist and you want to get into books, like the combination of those two gives you such an advantage over people who are just making books on a convention floor. It was pretty exciting to see. I brought enough. I brought my new Dragon Nanny book and my new art book, and I brought what should have been enough for the Calgary Con, the Saskatoon Con, and I had talked to Chapters and McNally at Saskatoon to drop off books afterwards, and I sold completely out of my art book. and Dragon Nanny is down to a box and a half, so I don't suspect it'll last till Sunday. So I'll have nothing left to give the bookstores in Saskatoon. And that was all thanks to just because I could combine it with my prints. And talking to people like, Claire Marshall, who has amazing books, I feel like because I have like posters to go with them, it felt almost unfair how much easier it was to move books.
Yeah, you were talking into the wrong end there. Yeah, you'll still sound profound, I'm sure. I will say that talking to Effin Birds, shout out to Effin Birds, seems to be a consummate gentleman. I've met at a few shows now. We get along very well, and a fine review of my most recent work from him is available anytime you want to ask him at your next show. But Effin Birds and I were talking a little bit about. He sold out completely of all the books that he brought. Sunday basically he had nothing left to sell. But he doesn't sell prints or any other thing. Right. Humor is different, though, I think. Humor is like medicine. And so I think people are willing. It's, again, those maybes, right? If something's funny and you laugh right away, then it's not like maybe the rest of the book will be funny. For sure the book is funny. Mm-hmm. You already know. You flip through Effin Birds and you know there's plenty of medicine in there. And so you can just gather it up. But we were talking briefly about if you have a 10% royalty and you sell 10 books for $10, then you've only made $10. But if you sell one book at a show for $20, right, which you bought from the printer for $2.20, now you've got a margin that is much more favorable for you if you're trying to make a living off your own work and not make other people's living off your work. So there's a bit in there. So when Justin's talking about the way the prints become the margin, we just start thinking about it instead of two separate products, but one product with a shared unit cost.
Exactly.
Right? And so the unit cost of the print plus the book earns X, costs us Y, and the profit is what is left over there. So I think that is germane to the conversation.
I'm gonna rapid fire off some post-mortem Comic-Con questions. How was load-in and setup?
Seemed very smooth, honestly. I found the load-in to be quite excellent because I had Justin, who goes to the gym a lot, helping me push all of my stuff up the ramp.
How was the attendance of the show?
I thought attendance was very strong at the show, although there was a lot of waves, and I'm not sure what accounted for the waves. I assume, but I don't know for sure, that there was some sort of guest talks that were going on in our building.
So Calgary has two separate buildings. One has the Artist Alley, and one has the Vendor Hall. And people have to kind of find their way in between the two buildings. How did you feel about that setup for this year?
Not ideal. I think anytime you're asking people who are there to just casually enjoy an event to have to also understand the geography of where they're going and why they should travel, that's not the best planning. But it's nothing that can be done about it. There was a major construction taking place on the convention center, so that's just how it had to be.
For people who maybe did this show in years past but haven't come back to conventions yet, how would you compare this show to the 2018 or 2019 Calgary Comic-Con? Better, worse, same?
By what criteria am I judging it? Because it was probably similar financially to the 2019 show.
Yeah.
It was probably, one of my best shows ever as far as just connecting with people in a real meaningful way. There was a real hunger for people to talk about the work and why the work and where the work and what it really means. And I had the most questions ever about wait, is this story's not just about robots taking over the world. There's all this stuff in here about being a parent and that it really, that stuff, which is not how you sell a action-packed book about a robot apocalypse, but when people sense it and then want to talk to you about what it's really all about, that was that was new for me.
This is Mama Bear Carter calling. Do any of you bears have your ears up?
Did you feel like there was a surge of new artists at the show? Because of the pandemic, have a bunch of new artists shown up to replace people who have maybe dropped off from doing conventions?
Oh, interesting. That wasn't my feeling, but what do you think?
It's hard to. I thought so. I thought it seemed like there was a lot of new faces out there, and it made me feel like more like I'd been around. This was kind of like Calgary's this is 10 years, I think, of doing this show. So Calgary has a very familiar, homey, warm feeling. So I felt like it felt kind of cool to be a little more like a staff. Like I knew the staff, I knew so many other people. I felt like I was doing a show at home.
Oh yeah, interesting. Shout out, speaking of things that make it feel like home, shout out to Jessica, who is always battling her way through the artist alley and vendor setups, who we have heard is going on to greener pastures. If anyone ever passes a message to her from us, tell her we will miss you terribly. You've saved our bacon many times over. Speaking of warm hugs and sunshine, look, the storm is cleared, the road is paved, the GPS is working again.
We have internet.
The truck is no longer following us, and that cloud of crows seems to have abated. I feel like we have avoided the curse, Justin.
What are you going to change for next year?
About Calgary or about
this trip?
I'm not going to go through that valley ever again.
What? That was amazing.
Well, that's haunted. That's what they want you to think.
Well, it's full of dead dinosaurs. Of course it's haunted.
Oh my God.
Dinosaur ghosts are the best.
Okay, wait. At night, do you think the ghosts of those dinosaurs can be seen roaming around?
Man, that's terrifying. There was that great Love, Death, and Robots. There was one episode where in the desert at night, the ghosts of the ocean that used to be there come alive.
I remember that one. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Ghost T-Rex has got to be the scariest ghost.
Now, but does ghosts... Okay, here's a question for you. Since we've passed all these empty, dilapidated houses on this journey, do you think ghosts require consciousness and a knowledge of self in order to become a ghost? Is this why the woods are not overrun with hauntings of squirrels and owls and mice that are constantly die under vicious, flesh-rending circumstances?
I don't have an answer for you. I don't know.
I want you to plumb the depths of your spiritual self and answer this question for us, Justin.
I guess, yeah, once you're a ghost, what are you going to get up to? And then once you get up to that, for how long do you do it, right?
If you're a ghost, yes, that's not how I would typify the question I asked, but we could reconfigure this as, if you're a ghost, what are you going to get up to and for how long? So please answer that question, yes.
I don't know.
It would depend on the circumstances of your death.
Yeah. Are you stuck in a loop of how you died, or are you just you, but now in ghost format?
Justin Curry has been killed today in an avalanche when all the art pre-purchased for his booth fell on him. That's a hair.
That's not a bunny.
Yeah, that's a hair. When all the art pre-purchased by his many adoring fans collapsed on him, crushing his bones, brittle as they are, you're now going to haunt the comic convention. So, what are you going to get up to, and for how long?
I'm going to knock your stands over first.
Is that why some stands just can't stay up?
That is the most horrifying noise you will hear as an artist at a Comic-Con is the sound of something falling over, because you won't know if it's yours or not. And to have your I've had it happen 2.5 times. Some of my stands fell over during a show, and there is no worse feeling.
There's also that moment where as things begin to collapse, you wonder if you rush to their aid, will you make it worse or better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the we have these telescopic photography stands that are used to hold up like big sheets of material for photography shoots. So like when you get your school picture taken, there's that big, like most of them are like blue or black or like just flat material. We use those same stands and kind of knit a wall out of our artwork using those. And some of them can go up very tall, like up to 12 feet. And when they're up to 12 feet and they have a bunch of artwork strewn in between, if they're not anchored down, if somebody comes along and kicks that on the way by, or you kick it by accident,
or a loading bay door opens and a pressure change occurs inside the building.
Yeah, they're like sails.
Yeah, big sail.
They can fall over. So it's like usually one of our first things we do is we tape our the foot of the anchor down. So even if it's kicked, you still got a bit of give before it comes down. Because if it falls over, good, yeah, you're back to square one of setting up your booth.
So pro tip, duct tape and lots of zip ties.
Yeah.
Bring those all the time, and then secure the foot of your stands to the table so that there is a counterweight that holds it off. I forget how we started this. We started this in the middle of nowhere, and now our conversation has got to the middle of nowhere. So maybe...
Well, I think I want, because Calgary's still fresh in our mind, I wanted to do as much post-mortem on the show, because when I re-listen to podcasts and we just mention briefly, oh, we just got back from Seattle, and we don't get into how the show went and what we would do differently and what we'd recommend for people doing the show, I wish we dived into that more, because that was always the point of this podcast in my mind. We're trying to do the podcast that we'd like to find.
Fair point.
Right.
Fair point. I will say some hot gossip about the show is Rob Liefeld, who did not attend the show, but famous for many 90s comics properties, and the creator of Deadpool and other exciting X-Men related properties, was shouting out that the show was terrible and that it was a failure.
Wait,
and that
he wasn't there though?
But he was not there.
Oh.
What do you think about that?
Well, that's terrible. Like, what? That sounds like. This sounds like a bit of a brat got maybe told not to come or couldn't get there, and so.
I doubt it. I'm sure if he wanted to go, they would invite him. Like he pulls. People love his stuff, and I will say this: everything that anyone wants to say about Rob Liefeld's work, put it in front of a kid. They love it every time. It's crazy. His art just speaks to a generation that is.
Actually, can I complain about the guests for a minute? Like,
well, this is what I was saying. I was thinking that some of the guests that did not have great shows might have been talking to him.
Oh, so my booth this year, I had like a different location of my booth than I usually do, and it was facing the wall of guest artists, and
Dun, dun, dun.
Sorry, yeah. So I was facing the wall of guest artists. So all along the wall is the guests that don't have to pay for their tables. They're invited out to the show. They usually have published with a major publisher like DC or Marvel or Scholastic. They've made a name for themselves. They're somebody. They're a reason to come to the show. My problem with them is 80% of them will not show up on the Thursday and will pack up early on Sunday. So if you're looking down the aisle with my booth on it and it's Thursday, it's a ghost town because the guests haven't shown up yet. And then on Sunday, they all pack up as soon as it's like 5 hours before the show's done in some instances. And I don't maybe it's because they have a flight, or maybe
I think it's got to be that because they're flown in and flown out, right?
Yeah, but it's just and a lot of them they won't show up until the show has been going on for a couple hours. For me, this is a job, and I show up before the show starts, and I don't leave until the show is over. So it always kind of bugs me when I have neighbors or people nearby that show up late and leave early. It feels unprofessional, and I hate having dead tables around, because then people who only have a limited time at the show, if they look down your row and there's nothing going on except for you, they're probably going to go to the next aisle that's full and busy and bustling, and everybody's there doing their job.
But I will say, if you only saw Justin's booth at the end of the row, you'd probably still make a trip.
Look, mister, don't take your family back in there.
The silver's been gone 40 years now. Besides, there's nothing back in there but animals.
George McHale was promoting Cover of Darkness at the show. He's been on the podcast before, and he's a friend of the show. And we're meeting up with him in Saskatoon later. We're going to brainstorm a project together. Man, he was putting books in people's hands. But you were kind of front row to that, so why don't you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, like George seemed animated enough, but his the person he was with stole the show. She had a great, I don't know exactly what her opening line was. I think it was, do you want to hear about my book of monsters, or do you like I don't know what it was.
His co-writer on
But
Book of
she
Darkness.
was grabbing everybody and keeping them engaged, and it was quite a sight to see. It was like, there's carnival barking, which I'm not a fan of. This was not that, but it was engaging and pretty awesome to watch.
There's a fine line to engage people who are walking past, and it's hard to tread between like piquing interest and demanding attention. Do you ever do any fishing when you were growing up?
Yep.
Do a lot of fishing? What kind of fishing did you do? This analogy is going somewhere, I promise.
Like just normal, like wiggly rubber bait in the
But
river.
like river fishing. Okay, so river fishing very different than lake fishing. And I'm no like fisherman expert, but I spend a lot of time fishing in lots of different ways. And there's different kind of bait you use for different kind of fish, and different kind of times of the day that you use for different kind of fish. And the same is true at a convention. There are plenty of people who come Thursday who are early to a show. They're not interested in being sold anything. They're already there early. They're there to find whatever they want. They don't want to be convinced of anything. They've got the VIP pass. They're cruising around. They're going to take their time. They're in a few hours early than the rest of people. I find that the soft sell on them is always the best method. If I try to like, ooh, do you want to see my book? Do you want to know what it's about? Do you want to, why don't you pick it up? Why don't you take it? No. That is, they're there on their time looking for just the right thing. And if you just say, welcome, browse away.
That acknowledgement is really, really important. If you're going to do the soft sell or the hard sell, but like somebody being ignored is definitely walking around away from that table. As long as you acknowledge them within like the first, 7 seconds of them kind of hovering at your booth, that's the most important thing in my mind.
Yeah, just be an ambassador to the show and to the table, but you don't have to like throw goods at them immediately. Because the truth is, the other thing is you can look for people who have the passes, or if they've got a 4-day pass, they'll be back. They're walking the show, they're walking all over, they're going to see it, they're going to take in the sights. No amount of your convincing is going to get them on side. If they have a 1-day pass, then maybe you got to work a little bit harder.
I noticed that too. If somebody has a 1-day pass and it's near the end of that day, I'll usually try a bit harder with them than if I see, they've got a 4-day pass. I'll probably see them again. And they'll come back if they want to. But yeah, if it's that last hour of the day and they've got a Friday pass, I'm gonna push a bit harder. If you are an artist selling art in Artist Alley and you have the Visa Square terminal, I kind of developed this trick over the weekend that I think Claire C. Marshall kind of started, or I heard her do it first. So Claire went to Ottawa one year, and her books did not arrive in time for the convention. But rather than not set up her table, she still set up her display and took orders for her books, kind of like pre-orders, and wrote receipts, and was able to still sell and make it worth it, and like not have a failure of a show because of a bad happenstance. And I always thought that was great, and I've always been kind of wondering how to do that. And Square recently updated their terminals, and so in your Square app you can now add notes to go along with a transaction. So if, for example, this happened with me, I sold out of some canvas pieces that people came back on Sunday and they really, really wanted. And I didn't have that in stock anymore, but I can now go through the Square app and add a note onto their order, and then I hand the phone over to them and they put in their shipping address and email and what piece they wanted, and then when they pay for it, it sends them an email with all that information, and then I have all that information as well. So it's not just a receipt on a piece of paper. There is now like an electronic invoice receipt that both parties have. And so when I get back to Winnipeg, I have 4 orders that I'm going to ship off when I'm back in the studio, and I didn't have to lose out on that sale, and that person still gets to buy that thing that they really, really wanted but missed out on. And I just think that's a trick that if you're an artist and you sell out of a piece, that sucks. And this option is something you might be able to try to still get that sale if you're comfortable shipping stuff after the show. So that's something I just wanted, every artist to know and maybe try.
In that same vein, something I tried differently this time around is I have a man-made lake. We just passed that. It basically at the bottom of that man-made lake is a alien meteorite that they tried to drown the evil of. Look, they even made a partition wall. That's totally what it is. It's holding back the evil of another world. Justin, back to the show. So the Wordsmith Academy is something that I'm doing a masterclass for, and this is by chance. The Calgary and Saskatoon show are between now and then, which is the 25th of March. And so I asked very nicely, and they complied instantly. So shout out to Wordsmith Academy to make a landing page that just had my masterclass on it that I could hook up to a QR code, so that when inevitably at a certain point in the show or a conversation, people will say, how do you do what it is that you're doing? And if they're serious about it, I now had a way to say, like, well, here, this is a legitimate class for not very much money that you can sign up for right now. There's a limited amount of time, and you can scan this code and you can go right there and check it out. So it'll be interesting to see how many of those actually result in an extension of that conversation, because you can only have a 15-minute conversation at a table with somebody before you're really hampering their ability to earn a living at their own spot, right? And so people who are people who are trying to do it themselves, they're usually pretty clued into that. They'll say like, oh, I see you're with a customer, thanks for your time or whatever. And all I want to do is keep talking about what it is we do. And you usually get to know them a little bit, what kind of stories they're trying to tell and what kind of things they want to do. And you and I have been doing this long enough that we've screwed up enough that there's lots of advice of what not to do that you want to like bundle up into a package and throw at them. So I finally had a way to do that, like a means by which to say, here's a direct follow-up. The podcast is one where we say, like, you can follow us on the podcast and we talk about lots of stuff, but much like this strange route you put us on, our conversation is sometimes circuitous. So yeah. What about 10-foot Henrys?
What to tell you about 10-foot Henry? Gregory and I arrived in Calgary Wednesday night after a full day of driving. We arrived with enough time to basically drop all our stuff off at the convention and set up a portion of our booth, knowing that we'd have all day Thursday to set it up as well. We then wandered downtown and found one of the only restaurants that was still open, called 10-foot Henry's. And it was it's like a tapas sharing kind of place, all kinds of different food. Like it was no one kind of food. But the meal there resulted in us going back 3 more times.
But I also want to mention that the comic nerd in me, 10-foot Henry, apparently I have to do a little research now. 10-foot Henry started as a little like cartoon
that just showed up.
In like 1900, 1902, 1903, there was a 10-foot Henry like
1930s.
30s? Is it the 30s? Okay, you were paying closer attention than I. But anyway, there is comics, and I found some, and they gave us some. And then there was also a literal 10-foot Henry statue.
That nobody knows where it came from, who built it, why it was there.
But it showed up somewhere in Alberta at once, and they got moved into this club that was in that building before, and then was in the basement of the restaurant, and it was being renovated before the owners knew what to call their restaurant. And when they found this 10-foot Henry, they decided that is what they're going to call their restaurant. So I just liked that it had comics DNA underneath it that we discovered after we discovered that we loved it. So shout out to a restaurant that kept us fat and happy for a good long time while we were in Calgary. There's always something great that happens in Calgary.
Yeah.
Right? I guess that's what's balancing out. Like, we had that sinister valley that we just drove through. So in order to balance it, we had 10-foot Henrys.
That valley was great. Maybe because I'm not driving. It was,
Well, this has been Super Pulp Science, where we have talked about how genre gets made. This is Gregory Kamichuk's encouraging you to join the fight and make comics.